Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 132, and the shows are available live, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, your home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications every time we go live or upload content, and there's a lot of content coming your way. And of course, if you prefer your podcast in audio form, then you can download all of the shows at your favourite radio and podcast platform. Just search A.C.E Podcast Nation and there's over 400 and something shows. And of course, if you want to keep the social media purely football, you can follow at A.C.E Footy Show on all social media platforms. But just as we wait for those platforms that I mentioned to fill up a little bit, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever for all their support around the show and the channel. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and of course their website, the links to which are in the description below, and of course the closing credits at the end of the show. And today's sponsor, as ever, is Bespoke Financial and Darren Ralston, and Darren is giving away a free will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So please check him out, give him a call, don't miss out on what is an incredible offer, particularly in the as we come out of COVID and stuff like that. It's a great time to get those policies in order and get some cover. He's looked after Andy for many a year, including the critical illness and the injury cover. They are top of their field and they do provide award-winning service, and we're extremely proud to partner up with such a brand, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. But we'll see, have a little video from them at the end of the show as well. But with no further ado, because we have a lot to talk about today, and including another top guest from the football world. But first of all, the goal collector, the fox in the box, the speed demon, some would say, the goal machine, some would say. But of course, he is the ex-Cardiff City, Middlesbrough legend, Davy Jones's favourite son. It is Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm amazing. I just want to start with a huge thanks to everybody who sent me loads of messages yesterday for my birthday. I thought it was amazing, by the way. Donna Perry, I'm not 52. I'm not 52, by the way. So cheeky one. And Dave Jones didn't get me disappointed because that was GD Parry. So no, but he had a lovely day with the family. And so excited for tonight. Listen, football's gone mad in 36 hours, which is something we're going to talk about. The good, the bad and the ugly. Another amazing guest. You just said it, Si, and I'm really excited. I love talking to current footballers and having a different swing on certain things, and I'm so excited to talk to someone who I've been lucky enough to see live a couple of times, who excited second player, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Can't wait.
Indeed, it's going to be fantastic. And of course, our guest this evening is Exeter City winger Robbie Willmott. Welcome, Robbie. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, like you said, it's been a big...
Thanks for coming on, Robbie. Thanks for coming on,
problem. Mate. No, it's been a big couple of days in football, so it'd be good to have a chat about it.
Before we start with that, though, Si, you know what I mean? I'd just touch on the game on Saturday, Robbie, because obviously you played against Southend United. Tell everybody what the game was like. I know you're sub, you came on, picked a yellow card up. What the game was like? What the game was like?
No, it was tough. It was, I think, in Phil Brown's post-match interview, he said we're going to go to war. So we knew we was in for a tough game. They're a lot better side than where they are on the table. He's only been there a week or so now, but he's got them playing well. They're a very good individual player side, I'd say. Haven't really gelled this year. They're quite direct. We couldn't really get out in the first half, and they played well. Sort of last 20 minutes, we should have scored. We had a number of opportunities, just couldn't take them. But we're still a point outside the playoffs with 5 games to go. So, and we play Newport on Saturday, which is they're a point above us.
Big game for you. Big game for you.
I can't miss it.
Robbie, just you are you not allowed to play? Is that the rule?
No, I'm not allowed to play. I'll be at home watching it.
Robbie, you've just touched on something there though about a new manager and Phil Brown. Phil's someone who I've played under as an assistant manager at Bolton back in the day under Big Sam. How important then is a new manager to a football club? You just said it there about the players are better than what they're showing. So is a new manager's job that important to make that happen?
I think so. I think it's like, as a player, I think once things start getting a bit stale, you need something new to come and freshen it up. And you can tell that Phil's done that at Southend. You know, the players look like they really want to run for him and work hard for him. And I think obviously the first half of the season they obviously haven't done that. They look like they're going to get relegated this season, but they're a massive club, especially for the National League next season. They're going to be, I'd probably say, title favourite.
Well, sorry, we had my brother on. My brother used to play for Southend, so he's gutted the position there. And last question on the game, Robbie, what was the yellow card for? I don't know, by the way.
I played a short corner and it got cut out, and I ran back and it was like a body check, but it was a weak. I think it was a weak yellow. It was do you know Darren Drysdale? He's the one with the
I do know it does. Yeah.
The headbutt.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So I didn't want too much of them.
Yeah, don't just take the yellow and walk away. Good choice, by the way. I did. Good choice.
So what we do for a first, Robbie, before we get into it, because people are itching to get into the old discussion, shall we say, about the Super League. We like to do the Magnificent Seven, which is 7 quick-fire questions. So we'll get into that first and foremost, and then we'll go from there. But it's basically, you know, as it is, just say the first thing which comes to mind, basically, as we ask you the questions. Okay, nice and easy to start. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Favorite TV show?
The Big Bang Theory.
No, we haven't had that one.
No, it's a new one again. Luton or Cambridge?
Luton.
I changed that as well, by the way, because first of all, it was Newport or Cambridge, but I decided I didn't want to put you in an awkward position, so I changed it to Luton. Because I'm nice like that. Best manager you've ever played under?
Probably Gary Brabin when I was at Cambridge and Luton.
Great show.
Good show.
Great show.
Angriest teammate?
Angriest? Probably Joss Labadie, who plays for Newport.
Okay, fair enough.
To be fair, Brabs could have been up there as a player, by the way, as well, because he was an angry man, right up there with the angriest.
Oh yeah, he used to like lose his neck every time he used to shout.
God, he was. He could tell he was going to be a coach or a manager. Just the way he handled himself on the pitch, he was very vocal. I liked him though. He's a good, lovely fella.
So last couple of questions. I'm going to ditch one of my questions, and I'm going to bring in something which a couple of people have asked in the live chat, and that is, do you want Exeter to beat Newport next weekend?
I'm going to go for draw.
Bear in mind, every time Middlesbrough play Cardiff and I say draw, I get abused on this show, by the way. So, you know what I mean? That fence is comfortable, Robbie, I tell you. Fair play.
Yeah, honestly, I'll be sitting on it until after Saturday.
Yeah, it's a good shout. And then the final question, my favourite. In your opinion, who is the greatest Englishman who's ever lived? Does not have to be football related.
I love Gaza.
It's a good question. I like it. I like it. I like it. They don't make him like him anymore.
No,
they don't. People have tried.
No.
People have tried, but there's no replication of Gaza. Gaza's a one-off, and I think always will be. You know what I mean? Rooney was probably the closest you're going to get. But it looks like you're ready.
Mate.
Looks like you're ready.
I'm ready, mate. I'm ready. Let's go. Right.
Gloves are
off. We've got 3 subjects to discuss in any other business this evening. There hasn't much been going on, so it was difficult to find them. So we've got 3 subjects. We'll let the guest pick the order. So the first subject is player social media and Phil Foden's tweet after the Europe Champions League game the other week. Jose Mourinho sacked by Spurs, and something about a Super League as well. Which one would you like to go with first?
Let's go with Mourinho.
Mourinho sacked by Spurs today. Yeah, like, to me, that's it's just shambles. I've got to be honest. Like, what was it? 11 months ago they put him in charge. Like, you know what you're going to get with Jose Mourinho, and it's much like Man United did with him. Although you could say United did it for at least a season. Spurs haven't really backed him, and I never understand putting Jose Mourinho in charge if you're not going to give him a bit of a war chest, because otherwise he's not able to build the sort of squad that he's done previously and been successful. But I don't know if you saw Harry Kane's tweets after he was sacked today. Like, they were quite telling. He called him boss. He was quite complimentary about him. I don't think I got the impression he was not happy bunny that they'd sacked Mourinho, less than a week before their biggest game of the season in the League Cup final. All round shambles. At the moment, they were saying on TalkSport when I was driving home just now that Ryan Mason is the favourite to take over. Now, I can only give my opinion on that. I think that is far too big a job for someone who hasn't been a manager yet. Particularly if I'm Harry Kane, I'm thinking I don't want to be part of a 5-year project which might be successful at the end of it. I want trophies now, because I think Harry Kane's 28 or 29. You know, he's coming up to 30. He's an England international. He's England captain. He doesn't want to be I wouldn't have thought part of something which might be successful. He wants success, you know, in the next 12 to 18 months, I would have thought. So I think there's going to be some big names possibly leaving Spurs. And lastly, I'd say, ironically, I think Daniel Levy sacked Jose Mourinho because he felt like he had to make a choice between the two. And I don't necessarily think he did, because everyone thought that Harry Kane was going to leave at the end of the season because he wasn't happy with Mourinho. But maybe that's not the case. But Andy, what do you think? Because it seems to me quite shambolic.
I think you just took the words out of my mouth. The whole football club is an absolute disgrace by making decisions like that. And Daniel Levy should be embarrassed of himself by making some kind of decisions like that. You know what I mean? They've got themselves in a cup there against a very good footballing team. And listen, you know what I mean? If there was one manager who could have won on Sunday, it was Mourinho. With the tactics that he does and the team that he would have put out and the way that he was probably planning this for weeks, he could have got a result. I look at the last 8 league games; they've lost 2 out of the last 8. You know what I mean? You look at the league. Yes, they got beat by Arsenal. They got beat by Man United. Yes, it wasn't the most attractive way of playing football, but they're still scoring goals. They're still creating chances. I don't think the Dynamo Zagreb game helped. Everton are beneath them. Arsenal are beneath them. Wolves are beneath them. Crystal Palace are beneath them. Southampton have been beaten 9-0 this season, beneath them. Brighton, who had a good season last season, beneath them. Burnley might get relegated this season, beneath them, or got the sack. Those managers are days away from losing the job, or one more game away from losing the job, because if the big teams or the so-called big teams are panicking and pushing that button now, the panic button, then those teams must be following suit soon, because football is a business. Is it showing how much of a business it is? And these kind of clubs can't afford to not follow suit if that's the way it's going. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of people losing their jobs. For me, we've always said that change your manager in the summer. If you're not happy with him and you want him to leave, change in the summer. There's no point in, when you've got big games coming up, you've got a chance to potentially get in the Champions League. Yes, they're a few points away, but they've still got an opportunity to get in the Champions League. They haven't failed yet. You know what I mean?
No.
They haven't failed yet. Let me just put that there. Robbie, what's your thoughts on it being a current player? You know what I mean? Being at a club when a manager's lost his job. You know what I mean? How will the players be feeling now? Will they feel relieved? Some of them. Will they feel they've let him down? Some of them. Will they feel guilty? What emotions will be going through that football club in changing room now?
Yeah, I think some players will obviously feel that the guilt is with them. You know, you know if you've done well for the manager or not, and the manager will know if you've done well for him or not, and stuff like that. But I think the job that Ryan Mason is going to have, like you said, I think it's too big. The the club's too big. I think he's been brought in just to be a yes man. I think he's just going to be Levy's yes man. You know, I think if he gets the job long term, it's going to be these are the players that you're going to have. You know, go out and do something with them. He's not really going to have a voice or anything like that. And like we said with Harry Kane, I mean, it's players at that level. Once the manager leaves, like Mourinho, you want another manager of that stature to come in and bring the club forward and stuff like that. And they're taking like 10 steps back, giving Mason the job. It's like
Robbie, you've just said there, Robbie, about ambition. Then you know, what I mean, so use that word. You know what I mean? You as a footballer now has got ambitions. You've got Harry Kane, you've got England internationals, you've got World Cup winners in that group. They've all got ambitions. So, do they lack an ambition by making this decision? What you know? What I mean?
Yeah, it's such a lacking ambition. If you want to go and win trophies, like Spurs haven't won a trophy in so many years, and they're trying to keep their best players in Kane and Son and stuff like that. If you want to go and win trophies, you've got to bring someone in who's going to do that. You can't just give the job to whoever and go, oh yeah, like this is a 5-year, 10-year plan, and we're going to bring X amount of players in over so many years. It's just not going to happen. It really isn't, because the top clubs then strengthen every year. You've got City who pay 50 million for defenders, and they're getting results of it, and Tottenham won't do it. And until they do it, they're not going to win anything.
Here's a question for both of you.
They haven't got the money side as well.
Here's a question for both of you then. If this Super League goes ahead, which it looks like it will go, because the top 6 in the UK they've filed a court junction to try and make sure that they won't be banned or fined or chucked out of everything if they go to this Super League. If I'm Spurs and I'm going to that Super League with this big, you know, I think it was 300 million you get just for going in it or something I read. So if I've got that money to spend and I'm going into a Super League of the Europeans' supposed top teams, I want probably Jose Mourinho to be my manager. I don't want, no disrespect to Ryan Mason, but if I got to choose between the two and who's going to spend my 300 million, I'm probably going to go with Jose when he's proven that if you give him money at that level, he's going to at least win you trophies. It might be dreadful football, etc., but he will win trophies. So have they jumped the gun from that perspective as well as the other stuff that we've discussed?
Who's going to attract you better footballers? Somebody who's won the Champions League or somebody who's played for Spurs all his career? You know what I mean? And played for Hull. You know what I mean? No, I'm not being disrespectful, ex-footballer. I'm just saying as it is, and if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd see it as a real step backwards, like Robbie said, take 10 steps back, even more, because if you're getting 300 million quid, I'm looking at it as a football fan, thinking they've sacked the manager and bringing somebody in who's got no experience. They're not going to spend any money. That money's going back into the football club to pay the debts off, to pay the stadium off, and they can't get relegated, so it's a business decision and a business-owned decision. It's not a footballing decision, but they're going to develop week in, week out if they're not careful. You know what I mean? It's going to be embarrassing for that football club. So how are they going to progress? It's not going to be fun being a Spurs fan in that kind of standard.
It's someone in the chat, I don't know who it was, said a bit earlier on, like we'll get to the Super League and stuff in a minute, but like someone in the chat said Arsenal and Spurs are going to be the whipping boys of that Super League. When you look at the teams that are in there, like, are they going to be the teams down the bottom? Yeah, so are they going to be the teams at the bottom? Like, and if they lose a big chunk of their best players, is that also going to, you know, make that more likely? And it is like, it just lacks ambition. Like, to sack him a week before cup final it's pointless.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because Robbie, in English football, you're used to promotion, relegation, so you've got something if that's staying up. You know what I mean? Even staying up, it gives you that buzz because you've achieved something at the end of the season. If you've got 10 games to go and you're sat at the bottom of the league and you've got nothing to play for, as a player, how would you get yourself motivated to play and paid good money? You're not going to get relegated. There's nothing really to play for. So how will those players get themselves motivated? Because they don't need motivation, surely.
Well, they wouldn't. They literally wouldn't. These games are just going to be a farce. They're going to be a friendly. That's all it's going to be. And I think, like you said, the whipping Tottenham and Arsenal boys. I'm an Arsenal fan, and like, I just think it's pointless. Like, if I'm thinking, yeah, we'll go to the Super League and do whatever. Like, I'm hoping that teams like, I've just seen that Porto have opted not to go into the Super
Yeah.
League. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I want Porto in the Super League because I'm thinking, well, that's a winnable game against Porto. If we had Porto at home, I'm thinking, yeah, we could possibly turn Porto over.
Yeah.
We'll be going to Barcelona, Real Madrid. Like if you're Harry Kane and they're saying, you know, we want you to stay for X amount of years. Well, you go Barcelona, you're not going to touch the ball. Is he going to be happy losing 4-5-0, having one chance a game? And it's just such a pointless league. I just think it's horrific.
So it reminds me of well, Robbie just said there about it being like friendly games. So for me, the way that it looks to me, and I know I'm gonna probably make people laugh and I'm gonna annoy people a little bit, but it reminds me of the Nation League, because the Nations League is a new system, and this is what this looks like. It looks like it's been brought in to play games, to be competitive but not really competitive because you haven't got relegation, and nothing really happens in it, and it's just a carbon copy, but a league format instead of a national format. The whole thing just doesn't make sense.
So, yeah, let's switch completely to the Super League stuff then. So, from what I've read, there's X amount of teams who've agreed to go into it from various leagues. Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Porto have all said no. The top six, traditional top six, if you like, of the Premier League have said yes. Madrid, Barcelona, the Milan teams have all said yes. So the concept is those teams cannot ever be relegated out, or they're always in this league. Then there's 5 spots which can be earned by teams around Europe each season to go into it, and they play. There's 2 groups. They play each other home and away, and then it goes into like a knockout stage, I think, with the top 3 of each league, and then there's like a playoff between the 4th and 5th teams from each group, and then it goes into a traditional knockout tournament. But it's played between, I think it was like May and August or something, so it's right after the season would start, because supposedly the teams involved in it, they don't want to pull out of the domestic league and stuff. Bear in mind, Man United didn't play in the FA Cup 1 year because they had a World Club Championship. But you're telling me that these teams, year after year, are going to play a full season of 4 tournaments, those top teams, you know, the league, the Champions League, whatever, all a full season. Then they're going to play May till August in this Super League, and then they're going to go and play international football every 2 years in the Euros or the World Cup. It's not going to happen. So something's got to give. Just, you know, even if you don't include things like, you know, who's going to be banned and who's going to be stopped from playing where, just on paper, that's not going to work. We're already talking and regularly about, with COVID, where you've had the back-to-back seasons, and then you got the Euros, and then you got the World Cup. There's no break for like nearly 3 years. But now they want to put this extra league in, which is supposedly going to be the best of the best. It's not, is it? Because if FIFA say if you play in the Super, well, this is it. They've announced today that the Champions League has got a new format on the same, you know, the same weekend that they're talking about this crap. But this, the other thing,
define side. Define. You said just then traditional top 6. Yeah. Right. Tottenham. Sorry, never won the Premier League. Yeah. Never won the Premier League. Never looked like winning the Premier League, by the way. You know what I mean? They haven't even been anywhere near close. You know what I mean? You look at Leicester City. Leicester City have won the Premier League. They're top 4. They're top 4. We normally see a couple of times. They're in the top 6 now. They look like they're going to finish 3rd or 4th this year. You know what I mean? What right does it give Spurs as a football club? And I'm not just picking on Spurs, by the way. I can say about Arsenal this season stuck at 9th. You know what I mean? Robbie's an Arsenal fan, and he's already said his frustrations this season already. That what gives them club there a top 6 club now, because they've had a good history in the Premier League. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Teams evolve. No. Clubs have more money. You look at Leicester City's money, what they've got, what they're generating. The money what West Ham United are generating as a football club because of the big stadium. It drives me mad. You know what I mean? Everton. You know what I mean? If these teams don't stay in the Premier League, for example, and they break away and they don't play in the Premier League, then we're going to have a Premier League which is not going to be worth the paper it's written on.
Yeah, it's going to be the equivalent of the Scottish League, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to have basically Everton. We're going to have Everton, Leicester, and West Ham fighting for the title. You know what I mean, Robbie? How would that make you as a football fan to see? Would you watch Premier League football if that was the biggest game on the season? Which is what? Like, is that appealing to you as a fan or as a player?
No, not at all. You just like you want to be in the biggest games, and if they're not going to be in the league and stuff like that, then it's like Sunday, like you get the Super Sunday games and stuff like that. You know, like when you have like Derby weekend, you've got like Man United, City, Liverpool, Everton, and you've got Arsenal, Tottenham all on the same weekend. You're like buzzing for the weekend. But when you've got like Everton, West Ham, and then the next biggest game, you've got Leeds versus West Brom or something like that. You're like, it just doesn't make any sense. But I just think it goes down to the whole American concept, where it's like all the teams are franchised because of money. No one can get relegated. No one can get promoted, but yet they're still making millions. And it's relegation and promotion is all part of football. That's where like the heartache of the last day of the season is like one of the best days or one of the worst days of the season. And it's amazing to watch as a player and as a fan. It's amazing to watch. But these games in the Premier League are just going to be awful. They'll just be awful.
I totally agree. It makes a mockery as well, though, Si, of the Premier League. So look at Norwich City, right? Norwich City have had the best weekend in a long time. They got themselves promoted from the Championship. They're looking forward to the next season. Then all of a sudden, a day later, they hear this news. Their money from the Premier League could be cut somehow, because if this decision, the Premier League might hold some of this money back. So that could affect their livelihood, the amount of players they can bring in, the squad size they can do. You know what I mean? The support. I just think it's so disrespectful to all these kind of clubs like Norwich City, like Bournemouth. You know what I mean? Like Barnsley. You know what I mean? Barnsley potentially could be in the Premier League next year, and it might be an absolute disgrace and a waste of time. You know, I just think why are we even looking at it? You know what I mean? Even the Gary Nevilles and the Jamie Carragers and all the ex-Gary Linekers, they're all totally against it because they know what damage it's doing to modern day football, and that's why other countries, Germany for example, if anybody follows Jan Fjortov on social media, he's very outspoken, and rightly so, by the way, because he runs his own TV channel over there in Germany, where he's living, has decided that the big teams aren't following suit. And do you know what? I respect them so much for that, because that just shows solidarity. It shows respect for football and for players and for fans. They're not thinking about the money. They're not thinking of that. They're thinking of the Champions League. They're going to win the Champions League weekend season after season, because there's going to be no decent sides in it.
Well, so you know what's going to happen. So obviously, when I was speaking then about the long seasons, that I was going like on the sort of hypothetical where no one's banned from doing anything, that everyone can just do what they're planning. So, but when realistically, FIFA have already said if you play in this Super League, you won't be allowed to play international football for your country. So straight away, we were talking about Harry Kane earlier. He's 28, wants to win trophies, wants to do well. He's the England captain. Is he going to stay at Spurs for a bit of extra money and play in the Super League, or is he going to move to Paris, get the same money, play in the Champions League, and play for England? It's a no-brainer. So what you're going to find is Paris, Bayern, the traditionally big clubs who aren't in the Super League will get all the best players, because the bigger or the top clubs in the English league, if you take out the traditional top six because they're relegated or banned or whatever, what's left won't be able to afford the best players in Europe. So all those best players are only going to go to a handful of clubs. It's just that now that handful of clubs is a lot bigger. So it's going to be a massive problem for the Premier League as a brand as well.
On that point, though, you know what I mean? We've got a current player here on the show. You're talking about players and you talk about money. You know what I mean? That Harry Kane could leave Tottenham Hotspur on $250,000 a week. He could go and sign for West Ham on the same, because they've got the money, they can afford it, and they're playing in the Premier League. So, for me, players are going to get 20 million, 30 million contracts over 4 or 5 years. It's absolutely fine. They're going to get it in the Premier League. They couldn't get it in Norwich City. It's irrelevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the TV rights might not be there, so they might not have the money in the Premier League. Is my point. If you haven't got this money,
if the players don't want to. If the players don't want to be there, and the players don't want to play in these kind of tournaments, they won't do it. They'll vote with their feet, and they'll put a transfer request in, because Sky Sports have bought the rights for the Premier League for the next so many years. So for this league, and it'd be interesting who does get it. Robbie,
it's going to be fascinating to watch
on players or player power. You know what I mean? Do you think players will vote with their feet and not want to play in this Super League, or do you think players want to play at that kind of level week in, week out, game after game? Enough?
No, I think they'll vote against it. I really do. I think once you take international football away from them, I think they'll just vote no. I think that's what the Champions League's for. You know, you get all these players who let's say at United and they miss out on the Champions League and they make Europa League. All you ever hear is, Pogba wants to play Champions League. He wants Champions League football. Like, you've got it there. Like, it's there. Your club is now taking it away from you. And like you said, it's like they might get 50 grand a week more. But these are multi-millionaires, like, already. Like, let's be honest, like 200, like 300 grand a week, it ain't gonna make a difference. Like,
no,
like, it's just so much. It's just great.
Players don't think of that side. You said there about who put a comment on it was Sky will renegotiate the deal.
Yeah,
I'm telling you now, there's no way in the world, because I tell you now, the football clubs will sue Sky Sports. They'll sue them for money.
Depends how the contract's written, doesn't it? If it's based around those top 6 clubs,
but
they have the most games, don't they?
Yeah, but the one who spoke about this though, this won't be in the contract. There's no way in the world that it's been discussed. No way, because this has been done between the top 6, because nobody's known what's going on. Nobody's spoke about this for years. This has been a talking point when Fergie was manager in 98.
They've been talking, haven't they?
Just coming in.
Sneaky.
Yeah, they've been talking. The top 6 have been talking, and this is where it becomes underhand. This is where it becomes disrespectful to the rest of the Premier League, because you've got a game, let's say West Ham at home to Everton, for example. You know what I mean? And you're inviting people from the board into your home, into your boardroom. How disrespectful is it that you're talking to someone and they've been talking behind your back and they've stitched your football? Yeah. They've ruined football, and they're absolutely killing it for fans, for the supporters, for neutrals, for people who talk about it, for players, just for everybody, and even for their own players and their own organisation, because it's not for me, you know, because there's more travel. It's rubbish for me. Robbie,
if I'm a supporter and I'm like, yeah, well, you know, just do the Super League, whatever, and like, now COVID's hit and it's a global pandemic, and money around the world is so much harder to come by for everyone. People are losing their jobs and everything like that. Like, how do you afford, like, when supporters are back, like, how do you afford to keep going?
Yeah.
Abroad, like, how do you keep doing it? I don't understand how you'll keep doing it, and then it won't be long before you get, like, you'll see Arsenal play Barcelona, but it will be in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally
100%.
agree. Totally agree. Totally. And that's what it's going to be. Side. Every game will be in China, or every game will be in Saudi, or every game will be in
Abu Dhabi. 100%.
And that's where they're going to make the money. It won't be home and away. It'll be neutral. Every game will be neutral.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I wanted to put these 2 questions to the both of you, just to finish the subject off, really. First question is, do you think, now, basically, bear in mind that football clubs make the majority of their money from TV rights and things like this. They don't make the majority of their money, like I'm talking the top 6, don't make the majority of their money from fans and people going to the ground. It's stuff away from that. Do you think that COVID and the last year showing that football can function on TV and be presented, and it can be good, and you can edit in crowd noises and things like this, do you think that has given them a bit of confidence that they can go and do this Super League, even if their fans, like for each club, are not on board with it? That's the first question. Andy, what do you reckon?
I think the football clubs think that they can do this without the fans. They don't care if they're there or not. You know what I mean? I think Robbie just said it there about every other week's going to be an away game, or every week could be an away game, depending on how they do it. If every other week's an away game and you go to Barcelona this Saturday, and then in 2 weeks you go to Real Madrid, then 2 weeks you go to a team then that comes with a cost. So supporters won't turn up. You know what I mean? You're going to have to watch it on TV, which probably comes at a cost again. they don't care about that cost. They just care about them picking up that kind of money. You know what I mean? I believe if it does happen, every game will be in a certain country. So every like the Grand Prix, that it'll go on a circuit. So everywhere it'll be something else, a different game somewhere else, or over a weekend. You know what I mean? At different times, same pitch, same ground. And for me, I don't think it can happen. I don't think we can allow it to happen. I think there's got to be some kind of sport, you know what I mean, to stop this from happening. You know what I mean? But for me, to answer your question, they can do it because they don't need fans. They don't need fans to make this happen, unfortunately.
And Robbie, I wanted to put this to you as well, is if they decide to go ahead with it and the fans of the individual clubs just, you know, they say they're not going to go, but they just go ahead with it anyway, and the Premier League or FIFA, UEFA, all of them say to those football clubs, you cannot compete in the Champions League, the Premier League, whatever, what sort of impact is that going to have on the playing squad at Man United? Like, to me, it doesn't feel like there's enough money that you could offer those players to just play Super League football, which has got no competition aspect to it other than winning the league. There's no relegation, there's no promotion, it's just the same teams over and over again. Like, what sort of, I guess, mindset would the players have if they've been kicked out of everything else?
Mindset would just be, you just get players like the ones who went to China. You'll just get players like that, you know. You'll get
bang on.
You just get bang average Premier League players who want to make it. Who just want to make as much money as they can, retire, and then that they're happy. You get players who want competition. Football is about competition. You want to be fighting for the Champions League and qualifying for Europe and stuff like that. You know, it's like when you get a team in the Premier League, you know, like Leeds have come up and you're like, you know, Leeds could potentially make Europe, you know, on their first time back in the Premier League. You know, that's like special, and it's almost being taken away. It's because the teams are leaving. It's like, you know, it's just a one-off season for Leeds, and it doesn't matter. These teams are going, but the players, you know, like Harry Kane and stuff like that, they'll all leave. Pogba will leave United because it's a pointless competition unless his agent keeps him there and his agent's getting a payoff from it. And then, I just think the top players who have enough about them will just leave and will just go to, like you said, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, proper clubs.
Do you know what? I couldn't have put it any better myself. Robbie, what an answer, by the way. Do you know, from a player who sees that competitive aspect of playing, you know what I mean? That's one thing that when I retired, that you don't train in competitiveness. I'm talking about, and then that match day where you're competitive and you want to try and beat someone else and want to try and get up the table. And if you haven't got that, you know what I mean, it becomes. I watched the MLS last night late. I watched 2 or 3 games yesterday. I don't get it because, you know what I mean. It doesn't matter.
I struggle to watch the MLS, mate. I got to be honest, because
same as the A League. There's no competitiveness. There's no, you know what I mean. It doesn't matter if you're bottom of the league because, you know, next season you can come back stronger and you can give up with 5, 6, 7 games to go. And I just think it's so. I can't let this happen. You know, we can't let it happen because Robbie mentioned it earlier on about franchise. You know what I mean? That's what it seems like. And the figures that are getting spoke about is 300 million. If you're franchised in the MLS, it's 300 million. It's like the Premier League now, or the Super League now, is 300 million. It's like the Super League towards the MLS and making it a franchise that you buy into it. And if you want to get relegated or you want to come into it, you can come into it, but you pay 300 million quid. You know what I mean? And that money gets shared around everybody else, and there's a voting system. And for there's got to be more than that. You know what I mean? As a player, you know what I mean? Because like Robbie mentioned earlier on, we've all mentioned, players are going to get paid regardless. Players are multi-millionaires regardless of this league or not. You know what I mean? That if they get relegated, some of them from the Premier League, they're still millionaires. If they're mid-table Premier League, Europa League, listen, FA Cup. You know, I watched Leicester make their first FA Cup final yesterday. These are the kind of things that I want to see as a football fan, as a neutral. I don't want to see and listen to all this rubbish. What's being touted around. I want to see West Ham getting in the Champions League. I want it to be a big achievement.
Yeah, that's it. Well, mate, we haven't even talked about the impact on the pyramid and, you know, like the Championship and League 1 and League 2. Maybe we could talk about that on Friday because I do want to move on, but I just want to address one comment. Gavin just said, Klopp won't have this Super League crap. He's got too much passion for the club and the fans. 100% he would leave first. Well, Liverpool are in it, so I guess he's got a decision to make. Are you saying, Gavin, that the Liverpool owners have made this decision without speaking to the manager? Because if you saw Solskjaer's interview yesterday, where he said, oh, I know nothing about it, I'll have to look into it before I can make a comment. 100% he knew it was coming, 100% he knew that his club was involved, and if any of those clubs have kind of decided they're going in the Super League without at least giving the manager a heads up, then of course that manager's going to have a look at whether he's in the right job, because it's common sense, isn't it, really, I suppose, that they would speak to the manager of the football club. But so it'd be interesting, mate, because players, managers, everyone's got a decision to make, haven't they, whether they go or they don't, if it goes ahead.
Could you not then put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5 with Mourinho? That Mourinho's lost his job today after that,
because he didn't want to go with it.
So Mourinho didn't want to go with
it. Want it.
And you know what I mean? So Mourinho didn't want it. He's had an argument with the owner, and all of a sudden he's lost his job, and he's got a cup final coming up the weekend. For me, I think there's a bigger picture.
That makes sense
to say that. It does make sense, but until we know the evidence, until we know,
of course,
you know, what I mean, it's not on results. For me, it's not on results. I don't think you can do that, because there's worse teams in the Premier League at the minute. For me, that has got to be the underlying. You know, didn't want to be in it, and he's threatened to walk. So Daniel's just sacked him anyway.
Yeah, I think that's probably, like, that makes sense to me more than just sacking him out of the blue because you're on a bad run, but you've got a cup final on Sunday. You'd wait until after the final, wouldn't you, to try and get that done first. Just before we talked about the next subject, mate, Al Baker, Exeter City fan, he says, hi guys, hope you guys are doing okay. A question for Robbie. I'm an Exeter City fan. I was wondering if you're going to stay with us next season.
I'm not sure. I'm still contracted to Newport until I think it's July, and then I have to obviously wait for contract offers and stuff like that. You know, they might not offer me anything. Yeah, I'll be going to the Super League. You know, I've recently had a little girl. She's only 8 months, so sort of the next contract has to be right and location wise and stuff like that. You know, it's got to be right. But I'm loving every minute at Exeter, to be fair. It's a great club.
Good stuff. Right, Andy, I know there's one more subject you want to talk about, mate, before we go deep into Robbie's career and stuff. So let's get that one on, because I know it's one which Robbie can give a good insight to as well, I think.
Yeah, well, I think obviously current players and social media and basically the story short is Phil Foden, the beat Borussia Dortmund in midweek. He scored the second goal, didn't he? In the winner whip. Somebody tweeted out, Kylian Mbappe, I'm coming to get you. It obviously coincided and found out that Phil doesn't do his own social media tweets and doesn't run his own social media, and someone took it upon them to have a little bit of fun, and it backfired a little bit because of some of they called him big-headed, a little bit above his station, which did come across like that. And obviously my question to Robbie is, because I know Robbie's not on social media apart from on one platform. I won't mention it, Robbie, unless you do. But for someone who doesn't have social media and isn't prominent on there, how dangerous could it be, Robbie, for younger players? Because you're not. I wouldn't class you as a younger player. I'd class you as a young man. But is it dangerous for young players to let someone else do their social media? Is it disrespectful? Should they be doing it themselves and just being educated how to use?
Yeah, I think I had social media before, and I got banned a couple of times on social media, but it's purely because when people don't understand football, it's quite hard for them to understand the tweet and stuff like that, and they take it in the wrong context, and they take it as, like you said, like it can become across arrogant and stuff like that. But these players in the Premier League, I mean, they're not idiots. Like, they know how to use a laptop, they know how to use a phone. I don't see how they can't do their own social media. Like, they've got more time than anyone in the world. Like, it's they're always on their phones, constantly on their phones. You hear it in like when they do teammates on Soccer AM. It's always like, oh, who's always on their phone, who's always on social media. See, they can do it. But I think a lot of it comes down to stupidity. I think some of them tweet out a lot of stuff which is just is beyond me, and then they don't understand why they've been fined and stuff like that, because we have meetings every year from the FA, from the PFA, what you can tweet, what you can't tweet, what you can put on social media. So I don't understand like that side of it. I think just a lot of it comes down to money, and they just probably think they're above their station and they need someone to run it for them, apparently.
I totally agree though, Si, that you look at Robbie mentioned there about players have loads of time. You know what I mean? You're on about travelling. If people are on F1 now, you're on buses. You know what I mean? Which you can be on for hours and hours and hours. You know what I mean? You're in a hotel. You're sat on your own. You know what I mean? You're not with your family. So what else do you do? You could have really good interaction with supporters and do things properly within reason. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know if anybody ever followed him, but it was Ronald Koeman. I followed Ronald Koeman. Ronald Koeman was one of my heroes as a player. I loved him. I loved everything about him. He broke my heart a few times when he scored against England. But when he used to tweet after a game, he used to thank the fans. And I didn't read that though. I had a quick look at it. I read the abuse he got underneath, because that made and he stopped it because of the abuse. And no one deserves the abuse. You know what I mean? For me, just read the comment. If you want to retweet it, retweet it. If you want to like it, like it. If you just want to read it, it's not about comment and being abusive to people. It's about just having that interaction. You know what I mean? We spoke off air about the fans and players are so far away and distance from fans and players are distance from each other. It's scary, and it's going to be even more so if people aren't like these tweets and Facebook posts and Instagram pictures and reading them properly and understanding what they really mean. Because if I see a picture of someone in the house, am I looking at it thinking, why is he showing off? No, I'm not. He's just taking a photo. He's in his house, because he's not allowed in the pub. He's not allowed in a restaurant. He's not allowed to do. So he's got to be in his house. And I just think, you know what I mean. And for me, Phil Foden, the young player, get your dad to do it. Get your mum to do it. Get your girlfriend to do it.
Yeah.
Don't pay somebody who's going to potentially stitch you up because they're having a bad day, or they're having a bit of fun being player, because
or they don't understand it. Like they don't understand not the intricacies, but like the different aspects of it. You know, what you can say and what you can't say. Because let's face it, you could say something to if a player tweeting another player could probably not say something that I could tweet to you, not necessarily like offensive or full of expletives, but just something, you know, just a bit of banter or something like that. But like I've said to you, Andy, numerous times, if it wasn't for the fact that I need social media to promote the show, the channel, everything, I wouldn't be on it, because I don't like it. I don't like what it represents. I don't like the whole thing of people just posting how great their lives are, and then there's always, it's what I hate it. I hate everything about it, but I need it, so I've got to use it.
But the dangers are when you put something out there, it's out there. You know what I mean? And I know myself. You know what I mean? I know from my own mistakes that my one tweet about Dave Jones is still out there. You can't get away from it. I made a mistake. I put it out there, and you live and die by the sword, don't you? So. I
do try to let you forget it, mate, but you just keep bringing it back up.
Mate, somebody sent me it yesterday, so I'm never going to be able to forget it.
It's not as if I bring it up, every week in the intro or something, about. But yeah,
mate,
Phil Foden's not the first, mate. Recently, there's been a couple, haven't there?
It won't be the last either.
Joe Hart did that Instagram story, didn't he, after Spurs lost, and he was whoever was doing it.
Julian Lescott did a tweet in his pocket, apparently.
Oh yeah, Saturday when he tweeted his car.
Of course.
Yeah, in his pocket. You know what I mean? I guess. My pockets are big, but they're not that big where I can do a post and understand. It's funny though. I like the way that people try and get away with it. It's great.
This usually I was hacked. That's the kind of excuse, isn't it? Is like I was hacked.
I'd say everything. I'd say anything.
That's it. Robbie, moving on to you, mate. What's your earliest football memory, like the first time you fell in love with the beautiful game as it was, not as it is?
I used to go to the soccer camps in half term.
Yeah.
I always used to get dropped off there. Obviously, mum used to just drop me off and off she goes to do whatever. And I just loved it from then ever since. And then I started going to training when I was 5, 6, started going to training and stuff like that. And just loved it. I started watching football and watching Ian Wright. I grew up as a striker, so watching Ian Wright was just a blessing. Like he was an amazing goal scorer, and I used to just love watching him play. And he used to make me want to play. Just used to make me want to play every day.
Because obviously, with the way that he came through football late, in football terms, he came through late. Obviously, didn't he? Got scouted late. He played non-league football. You know what I mean? And for someone who scored that many goals for the Gunners and had so much of a career that he had, you know what I mean? Is that from not just you, from other football fans?
Yeah, like he was just so raw. Like you could just tell that he just loved playing football. Like he was playing in the Premier League, like he was playing still on a Sunday, like he was playing with his mates. Every game was a smile, and he celebrated every goal, no matter if it was a tap-in or a 30-yard screamer. It was insane.
Yeah, he didn't always play with a smile on his face, or did he? When he played against
he was angry, man.
You know what I mean? Those two, those two didn't get on, did they? Those two didn't get on. I liked my season watching those two. I used to love it.
Yeah, awesome. Robbie, was he your first idol in terms of football? Like growing up, was he your first player that you really, really looked up to?
Yeah, when I first got my first kit, when I played for my first team, I got the number 8 straight away.
Okay.
So he was my idol growing up.
What was it about him, Robbie? Was it just the goals he scored, like you said about him enjoying his game? What was it? Because he was. I think it was a little bit. He got the credit he deserved. How good he was technically. You know what I mean? You see him at Crystal Palace. You know what I mean? The things he used to do there. The hero status he got there with the cup finals against United and stuff, and the goals he scored there to get his move and stuff. What was so special about him?
I think I found him just so infectious. Like I said, he smiled in every game. The goals he scored, I remember. I think it was against Everton. He's flicked over the defender one side, flicked it back the other side. I think he lobbed Neville Southall. It was just an amazing to watch. And then as a kid, you go out in the garden, you try and recreate. I'm trying to recreate Ian Wright's goals every evening.
I remember the goals he scored. I think it was a chip he scored at Ellen Road against John Lukic, and he chipped it back post. And I was, you watch a certain player in a certain goal at a certain time and think that's just not human. You know what I mean? Someone who can just find things that easy, find the back of the net that easy. He did it with such finesse, week in, week out, game after. I remember when he got his record. I think it was against Bolton Wanderers, wasn't it? When he got his record, and he already had the T-shirt wearing, and I think he scored 2 or 3 that game, which it's just a credit to the man. You know what I mean? That he broke record after record, which is just a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah, he was just an amazing goal scorer, one of the best in the Premier League.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Oh.
So we've got loads of questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's go for some questions. I'll pick some out. Reese says, Robbie, were you at Newport when Wesley was hired? Any stories? If you weren't there, did you hear any stories about him? Loves to bring a medal in, apparently, and tell everyone what a winner he is.
I wasn't actually there when he got the job. I was actually going to sign. There was talks about signing him in January when he was there. But he's a character. He's such a big character in football.
Yeah.
I think the only story I have about him, I think when I signed in the summer, the boys were saying that I think someone choked him out in the changing rooms.
Jesus Christ.
I think he used to love. He used to I think he said to one of the boys that I could take you in a fight, obviously trying to rile them up sort of thing, and then I think they ended up having a roll around in the changing rooms, and I think it ended up being broken up. But it wasn't like a malicious fight.
Yeah.
I think it was just a play fight, and I think someone ended up he was in a headlock at one point, I think.
Excellent. I like those.
It's a good story, though.
That is a good story. Gavin Randall says, "What's the best stadium you've played in?"
Oh, Wembley, easily Wembley.
Excellent choice. What about outside of Wembley? So, like, if you take out the sort of,
we had a player final at the Etihad, and that was unreal. It's massive, so it was
cool.
It was amazing.
Andy's dad says, "Who's better, Wright or Shearer?"
I'm getting all jealous here, though, by the way, before you answer that question, Robbie, that all these stadiums out. That was one stadium that I never got to play at Wembley, you know what I mean? And when we're talking about Man City, it was always Main Road, and Main Road was a lovely stadium, by the way, but didn't have the Etihad, or, you know what I mean? Highbury was great, but doesn't have the greatness of, you know what I mean, the new stadium. It's just all the new stadium is just 10 times bigger. Yes, they might not have the atmosphere, but they're just great in stature. It's just amazing.
Yeah, who's better for you, Robbie? Andy's dad wants to know.
I'd say I like it. I would always say Ian Wright.
You're never going to go against him, was he? Never going to go against Ian Wright there.
Let's have a look. What else we got? Your dad also. Go on.
So are you going to answer that question?
Which one?
That one.
Wright or Shearer? I know I'm a massive Alan Shearer fan, I gotta be honest. So I'd probably go with Ian Wright. I like the way what I like about Ian Wright is that he was aggressive in the right way. Like, he was a winner and he was aggressive, passionate, but he played with a smile on his face. I like that. I like a bit of competitive without having to be resort to being horrible.
I think it's hard to compare.
Look, Alan Shearer is one of the greatest goal scorers the Premier League, the English football's
I think you can
ever
play them both
produced,
together. They're not the same kind of player. You know what I mean? I don't think when you've got two players who aren't the same, I think you can play both of them together. It'd be a perfect partnership.
Yeah, we could go with that. Liverpool are winning apparently. Yay!
Are they really?
What else? Andy's dad also asked who's had the biggest influence on your career, Robbie?
I'll probably say my dad. You know, like he came to every game. He used to drive me to every game, no matter where it was. I'd say my dad. He was always opinionated after my games, so I'd always know if I'd done well or if I'd done bad. But,
did he give you honest feedback? Yeah, whether you were good or bad.
Probably too honest sometimes. But
like my dad. This sounds like my dad.
As I've got older, it's stopped. So it's not, unless we're on TV, then I'll get a text after.
Cade asked.
I don't. Sorry. I'm 42 now. My dad came to watch me play. I still get abused, and rightly so, by the way, because I missed a sitter on Saturday. But I still get abused when I don't play very well. The only thing I can get away with is if I start running about and just try my best, and then my dad will tell me that I played well, which this is what it is. But do you know what? I don't mind, because Robbie will tell you, you know what I mean, fair in telling you, not playing very well. For me, he gives me that kick up the backside that I need. That I'm not there just to go through the motions. I want to play because I'm a winner. I'm a born winner, and I've missed football so much over the last probably 5-6 years that now I'm playing again. I've got a new lease of life.
Yeah. Kate Childs asked, is there a certain fine price in terms of if you get a yellow card or a red card? He said he understands if you don't answer though.
Yeah, there's not one for yellows. I think unless you get there's usually like club fines. So I think unless you pick up sort of 5 or 10 yellows and you get a suspension, then there's usually like probably a percentage of wages that you have to pay. But I don't really pick up too many, so I'm alright on that, to be fair. It used to be like £8. It used to be £8 a yellow.
Yeah, it used to be. Yeah. Inflation used to be about. Used to be £5. Used to be £5.
Yeah. Stop now.
Back in the day, and only cash in them days, Andrew, wasn't it? Only cash in them days.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I used to have to press your number in the switch me number in. No swiping.
Go to the post office and pay it in. Rob Boyle wants to know. It's one of the tough hitting questions. He says, "Have you ever been on a night out in Newport Where's your favourite place to go? Courtyard, Breeze, Greyhound, etc.
Oh, everyone always ends up in Courtyard. Mm-hmm. It's like three floors, and everyone, you always seem to end up there. I've only had a handful, because Cardiff's only 20 minutes down the road, so...
Cardiff's much better, mate.
But, but Newport, we had when we got promoted, we had our promotion party in Courtyard.
Nice. So, there was another question I was looking at, and I just can't... I've lost it. Craig says there, when you were at Cambridge, 2 players left to go to promotion rivals Luton, and you commented on them going, and then you were sold to Luton. What was it like when you turned up at Luton in the changing room?
No, they were fine. What? I think I said something like, if you don't want to help the club move forward, then that's fine. But I didn't really understand it at that age. I think I was 20, 21. I didn't really understand it. I'd been at Cambridge since I did my YTS there, so it meant loads to me, and they'd obviously moving on in their careers and stuff like that, and they'd given good contracts at Luton. But they were fine with it. I actually asked to stay when I got sold. I didn't even know.
Okay. Did you feel like quite a bit of? Do you feel any apprehension going there? Like, obviously, number one, you were going sort of against your will, if you like, but also knowing that there was a couple of players there who you had sort of not called out, but you'd commented on them leaving.
Not really. There was one of them I played with from sort of 17 when I first broke into the first team, so he was quite understanding about it. We all just had a laugh. We all just had a laugh about the comment. But it, sort of going there against my will, it was like, so I got called into the manager's office before training, and there'd been like a few bids the last 2 weeks, and they've all been turned down. And then he just said to me, like, we've accepted a bid. And I was like, right, okay. And I just said to him, like, what can you offer me to stay? Because I'd been there so long, I was like, what can you offer me to stay? And he just said, no. He said, like, I'm telling you to go. Like, you need to go for yourself, for your football. You need to go and progress and move on. And it was a great club. It was an amazing club to go to. It was a championship run club, but in the conference. So it was a win-win, really.
How did you feel, though, Robbie, that we've heard this story, though, haven't we, a few times, you know what I mean, might want to go, and the club did the deal, basically, without him wanting to go. How did you get your head round leaving a club that you didn't want to leave? You know what I mean? Because that must be difficult, you know, that I probably put myself in that same situation. My football club, I left Middlesbrough, but I left on the terms that I wanted to go. I wanted to go and play football. You know what I mean? It wasn't the case that I didn't want to go, but I had to go. You know what I mean? So I was quite lucky, really. You know what I mean? When I left,
I think I made it clear to the supporters that the only way I would leave is because I had a buyout clause in my contract, and the club wasn't great financially at the time. So at the time, I was probably their biggest asset at the time, and I made it clear that I was only going to leave if I was sold, or if the club said they didn't want me anymore. I wouldn't hand in a transfer request or anything like that. And then when the day come, because I was so settled and been there for so long, and that's why I asked if they would offer me a new contract. But they couldn't do that. But now looking back, you know, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change leaving.
So refreshing, Si, isn't it? So refreshing.
Yeah, it is.
It's so refreshing to hear, though. So refreshing to hear, because you don't get this loyalty at all. I'm not going to say sometimes you don't get it at all. There's no loyalty in football.
I wanted to ask you a question, and just on that subject quickly, because you both have got kind of insight into this. Like, when a club says or accepts a bid and tells you, look, we're selling you, basically, you haven't really got a say in it. Like Reese has asked the question there, of a player, because you hear it a lot. What can a player do in that situation? Can they, can you say, well, no, I don't want to go, and put your foot down, or do you ultimately kind of have to get the message? I take it, the club doesn't want you, or the club wants you to move on for financial reasons, whatever it may be. Like, it seems as if, like, everyone talks about player power, but like, it also seems like if the club wants to sell you, they'll sell you.
Listen, I think it's got to suit both parties as well. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot what goes from a transfer to a transfer happening. You know what I mean? There's a big distance from that to happen. But for me, when a football club's always told me that we've accepted a bid or you're not wanted, for me it's got to be to the end of the road. You know what I mean? Because there's got to be that. I mean, if I do stay. I'm probably staying against the club's wishes. You know what I mean? Are they gonna not play me? You know, I'm going to go to a club who obviously wants me. I'm going to go to a club who's going to play me. I'm a footballer. You know what I mean? I want to play football. You know, I was quite lucky back in the day that we still got paid very good money. You know what I mean? But it was all about playing. You know what I mean? And when I wasn't playing, I felt a little bit of a fraud. You know what I mean? That when I didn't play, I was a little bit like, well, what am I getting paid for? You know, that's why I wanted to go on loan to certain clubs. I wanted to find a club. I wanted to leave. You know, when I wasn't playing at Cardiff City, you know what I mean? I was frustrated. I was angry. I was anxious. I wanted to go and play football. And then when I got the opportunity to go up to Scotland to go and play football, then for me it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? I'm getting paid to not do a day ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me it's just an absolute no-brainer. You know, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid more or less from me. You know what I mean? I wanted to go and play. You know what I mean? And I needed to go and play for my own sanity, for my own career, for the rest of my footballing career, which was the most important thing for me. Yeah, you know what I mean? But Robbie can remember being 20-year-old, 19-year-old and coming through a Cambridge. You know that football career goes over so quickly. It's scary. And by the time you know it, it's done and it's finished. And looking back, the times when you think, I should have left that club or I should have played more games or... You know what I mean? I wish I'd have played more games because I see people who played 700, 800 games and I think, could I have played more games? Could I have been a little bit more selfish and gone to a club who was going to play me a little bit more than sitting on the bench or not being in the squad for a season or whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it, at the time because, like, it's easier to look back in hindsight of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to look back and think, oh, I should have done this, or I should have said this, or I should have behaved a certain way, or whatever. Like, it's easier to do that after the fact. But you've got to make these decisions about your football, and if you do love the football club that you're at, whether it's Cambridge or Middlesbrough or Cardiff, it is very difficult to leave, even if you've got a Dave Jones saying, right, I don't want you here, and if you don't go, I'm going to make you train with the kids. It's still difficult to make that decision, isn't it? As a young man, you know, you've got to move your family, you've got to move everything around, there's lots that comes into it, that decision.
Robbie will tell you, Robbie might have had a discussion with Kev Ellison. You know what I mean? We spoke about, I spoke to Kev after the incident happened at Morecambe, and his goal and his celebration, Robbie, you as a player. It makes you more determined to play football for me. You know what I mean? It wasn't personal. You know what I mean? I was bored. I'll be honest. I was bored to death every day. I was going to the gym every day instead of going to the training ground. I was spending more time on my own, which I didn't enjoy. Doing things I just didn't enjoy doing. I was going shopping more. Didn't enjoy doing it. I wanted to play football. I wanted to score goals. I wanted to train. I wanted to have the banter. And I wasn't getting paid to do it, so for me it was just a no-brainer at all. Robbie, is that ever happened to you at a club where you're a favour, but the manager just doesn't probably like you in, or put you in the group so you've trained with the reserves or with the kids or something?
I trained on my own. I had to go with when I returned to Cambridge. I had to. So I returned. I signed for Cambridge on a 2-year deal, and then. I think after about 4 or 5 months I was training on my own. So I was with the fitness coach in the morning. I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. None of the boys were allowed to interact with me at training. So there was about 7 pitches and I was like on number 7 pitch. Like you could just about see the boys. No ball, just running up and down.
How did that make you feel, Robbie? I know exactly the pain that you're probably going to say and the frustrations and stuff. And how did that make you feel as a person? Because that's who you are. You're a person, not a footballer. You're a person.
Yeah, I think because I come through there as a YTS and I've played, I think, about close to 200 games for the club. I'd been sold, the club had sold me, made money on me to pretty much bring money into the club because they weren't in a great position and stuff like that. And I returned for the right reasons. And then it was just so poorly done. Going into training was just such a headache because I know what I'm facing. I'm facing a manager that just hates me. I'd put my trainers on, go running, and that's it. Like that was my day. Just go running, go back.
And do you know what, Rasai? I can see the pain and anguish there in Robbie's face. That it's the same thing with me. That you turn in every day and you know what you're coming into. Because you have to go in. It's not a case of what people are probably thinking is don't go in. You have to go in. Get fined.
Yeah.
You have to go in, or you're breaking your contract, your terms of your contract, which your club wants you to do, by the way. You know what I mean? So for me, it's. You know what I mean? And Robbie speaks very highly of Cambridge United because they're giving him that opportunity. He came through the youth ranks. He's obviously got an affiliation with the club, so it can leave a sour taste. But everybody knows on here my love for Cardiff City, regardless of what one person thought of me at that football club. It will never stop my love for Cardiff City, and it's just it was a matter of time and a moment in time which between two people didn't say eye to eye, didn't get on, whatever you want to call it, and he had his opinion. He's just said there and alluded to. Training on my own was probably the hardest time in my football career. You know what I mean? I've been relegated. I've had 14 months serious injuries. I've been told that you're not playing professional football again. You know what I mean? But I'd put that up there with probably because it was so depressing. It was so upsetting. It was awful. You know what I mean? And I can see how. I can see why it happens as well. By the way, because I can see why clubs do it to players. But
I don't understand with it though. Well, Gaz made a comment. He says it's madness to make players train with the kids who aren't disruptive, and that's I don't really understand that. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Anne, but in your case, it wasn't that you were disruptive. It was just that Dave Jones didn't fancy you as a player, as far as I'm aware. So, there's no reason to isolate you, is there, in that situation? If you're getting your head down and training and doing your job, all right, you're not going to play. That's up to the manager to make that decision. But there's no need to isolate you from the group and your mates and the teammates and make you feel like less than a player. Robbie doesn't come across as disruptive, so I'm assuming it's the same for him. He wasn't being a disruptive influence in the changing rooms. So for me, if you're not being disruptive in the group, there's no reason to isolate you from that group. And I think it's disrespectful, and I think it's crazy that football clubs treat players like that. Because it's not it's not like it's just happened to you two. It's happened to probably 80% of players around the country. Do you know what I mean? But it baffles me.
But there's reasons behind it though, Sam. You know what I mean? Obviously, my reason was that Dave wanted to bring in Stevie Thompson. But the reason that we couldn't sign him because we were overcooked in centre forward area. We were paying too many wages, so they needed me off the books. And because I was happy to stay and fight for my place. That was the reason, and so I'm saying something positive back to somebody, and I get a negative back to me, and I didn't like that. So the more stubborn somebody was with me, the more stubborn that I thought I could be with them, and it backfired a little bit for us both in the end, I think. So
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Right, let's get some more questions for Robbie then before we have to wrap up. Reese says, when signing for a new football club, how much of an influence is the potential of a new manager, or how much influence is the potential to work with a new manager?
Yeah, I think it's a massive incentive. I think if you've got someone that you know or someone that people speak highly of and you want to work with them, then it's a fantastic opportunity. And the older I've got, the more I've seen it, and you get the best out of yourself when you're playing for someone that you want to play for, and you're happy. That's the big thing in football. When you're happy, you play your best football, and you see it in a number of players, and a lot of players say it in their interviews. And supporters take the mick out of them because they're like, he'll say, I'm happy and I'm playing my best football, and supporters are like, you should be happy, like you're playing football, but there's obviously more to it than that. Like you said, like with training with the kids and stuff like that, and training on your own, it's the hardest thing in the world. Like people think, I'll just go running and stuff like that. No, it's so hard when you can't talk to anyone at training and you can't interact with anyone. And then the thing I'm having to go home and say to my dad, like, I was like young at the time, and I'm like, I haven't actually done anything. Like, this isn't me. Like, I haven't gone in and I haven't like kicked the manager's door in and saying I'm not playing for the club or anything like that. They just didn't give me a couple of outs, like a couple of clubs that I could go to, but they just weren't clubs that I wanted to go to. One club wasn't paying their players, so I was like, why would I go to a club that isn't going to pay me? And then they were like, well, you need to go. And I'm like, well, if you're going to pay me the rest of my money, then I will go. I'm not going to go and play for free. I think the club was 4.5 hours from my house. So I was like, I'm not going to play for free and live 4.5 hours away. And then you see, like, that incident, because I said no, he then made me train on my own more and more and more. But when I had an offer from Newport that come in, which was a realistic offer, which was a proper contract, which had, accommodation and things like that, I signed. I had no problem leaving. That's why it's a bit sour for me at Cambridge, because the fans don't understand why I left. And the fans don't understand why I left to go Luton, because I returned after I went. I think we played Cambridge about 4 or 5 games after I left, and I remember some guy shouting at me saying, "You've dropped your wallet." I was like, you sold me. I didn't ask to leave. You sold me. Like, this is the big thing in football.
Yeah, this is the problem we've got, though. You know what I mean? Because Robbie mentioned it earlier on about the next move being right for family and stuff. You know what I mean? He mentioned that he's got an 8-month-old baby. You know what I mean? So everything's got to be right for the family's got to be looked after. The family's got to be happy, because Robbie said just a short time ago that a happy player off the pitch will be a happy player on the pitch and perform his best. And that's what happens, you know what I mean? Because you're going on the pitch with no fear. You go on that pitch with a smile on your face, because everything off the pitch is raw. That your mentality off the pitch is sorted out, and that's the club's responsibility to do it. It's your players' responsibility to do it, yourselves and your family's responsibility to do it, and it's key. You know what I mean? Because Robbie mentioned it. You know what I mean? That you just naturally go on it, because it's the same as everybody in normal life. You know, you go to work every day. If you're in a bad mood at home, you take it into work. You know, have an argument. You know what I mean? And that's the same as anybody. You know, it's the same as a footballer. You turn up for training, you're in a bad mood. You have a go at someone. You do a rash tackle. You have to go with a teammate, and then all of a sudden you find yourself not in the squad for a couple of games because you've upset the manager. And it happens. We've all been there where we've done something we shouldn't have done, or we say something to somebody at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's, you know what I mean, that fans need to understand that players are normal human beings. They're going to make bad days, and those bad days, that they need people around them, not people saying to them, "You've dropped your wallet," or people saying to them, "You're not working hard enough." You know, there's a reason why players have bad games. You know what I mean? But people don't look into them. People think they don't care and they don't want to play for that club. It's far from the truth. You know what I mean? People have bad games because of.
Robbie, me and Andy have talked at length about the loan system and the benefits that it had on Andy's career, and we've talked to other players about it. Obviously, you're on loan at Exeter at the moment, and Donna asks, how much contact do you have with Flynn now that you're on loan at Exeter?
Yeah, we have some contact. You know, it's not obviously, it's tough because obviously the position they're in and the position we're in, and they've obviously got a big job to do. But I played with I call him the gaffer. I played with Flinny at Newport when I first signed, so we are good friends. You know, I've known him still for 8-9 years, so we are good friends, and we'll probably talk properly in the summer. The club's going down a different route. I think they're getting a sporting director this season, so it's going down a different route. So, but you know, I wish him all the best with the running for the playoffs, because they've been brilliant this year. To be fair, they've changed their style of football, and he's implemented that well. But we have had some.
You said there, Robbie, about obviously Flinny and you've known him a long time. Did you always see him being a manager? Because I think since he has been a manager, he's done solutions. He's implemented those in a philosophy, the way that he wants to do it in a difficult league, by the way. Again, on a difficult pitch at times, against some good sides, some big clubs, and he's fought all the way. He's had so many positive times, so many positive results. Couple, you know what I mean, big games. What's his key to success?
Again, I think he's just infectious. Like he loves football, um, and he manages just to get the best out of people. The players he gets in, he just manages to get the best out of people. The pitch, obviously everyone's seen the pitch. It's not great, but it worked as an advantage for us. Obviously in the FA Cup, we had teams come to us in the FA Cup, and they were beaten by the time they done their warm up. I think we had Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I watched the game. I watched the game on me. Yeah.
We were lining up in the tunnel, and literally as we were standing side by side, it started raining, and you just heard their team go, "Oh, not tonight." And you're thinking we've won this already. It's done already. But yeah, no, he's just great at getting the best out of people. He really is, and he's changed the style this year. They've gone total football this year, and it seemed to work for him. They had a couple of games obviously at Cardiff City, but yeah, it's worked really well for him.
Well, that was one of the games that I wanted to talk to you about watching you, because obviously I watched you in that game, and I agree with what you say. By the way, I thought Middlesbrough's attitude towards a football game that night, so I think it was a Thursday night FA Cup game, and it was Middlesbrough's attitude in that game was absolutely diabolical. You know what I mean? They turned up to a game thinking that we're a big club. We've got some big players, Rudy Gestede, you know what I mean, George Friend, Adam Clayton, etc. And they just came, and it was further from the truth. From minute one to the end of the game, you got absolutely dominated all over the field. They didn't look like they were trying. They didn't look like... And I'm not being disrespectful, by the way, at Middlesbrough. I thought Newport were the better players. They had a better team. The tactics were spot on. You know what I mean? Middlesbrough just didn't the Newport County side that evening.
I think it was... they had... Yeah, we played them late on in the week, and they were the early kickoff on the Saturday morning. They had Leeds at home on the early kickoff. So it was one of them. They just literally wanted to get the game done and get back up to Middlesbrough as quick as they can. Their flight, they were flying from Cardiff. Their flight got cancelled. So then they were driving back up in the bus. The bus broke down. So they didn't get back till sort of Friday morning. Didn't train, and they had Leeds. I think they got beat by Leeds. So I think it was a bad 48 hours for them.
Robbie, to be honest though, a lot of the players had a lot of energy left because they didn't run about that nice. They didn't. They had a lot of, don't worry, don't feel sorry for them. You know what I mean? But as a Middlesbrough fan, I remember the whole debacle of that. You know what I mean? So the side that flew up before the game, fine, prepared, fine, perfect. Game finished. The flight got cancelled because I think it was the weather, to be honest. So then they decided to go back in the bus. The bus broke down. They didn't. The whole thing was an absolute just shower of rubbish, and it happens, doesn't it? It's just one of those things. It just accumulates into a big mess, and into the biggest game of the season against one of your local ranking by Leeds United as well, which was probably going to happen regardless. You know, because Leeds were the top side that year. In the Championship, I think they got promoted that season as well. So it was probably always going to happen.
Bad day at the office, mate, by the sounds of it, at the end of the day.
bad weekend, bad weekend, yeah. Long weekend.
Everybody has them. So I've got a really good question to finish off. But and is there anything else you want to put to Robbie now before I go to this last question? Because it's a good one.
I'd like to ask Robbie a question about after career. Is it going to be anything to do with that?
No.
Yeah, I'll let you do it then. Oh, so it's not right. Okay, Robbie, I'd like to ask about. Obviously, I don't want to wish retirement on you. But I just thought, have you thought about life after football? Because I know there's companies, you know what I mean, and the ex-footballers who are big advocates of players having a life after football and thinking about outside the box, you know what I mean, after football, because you're a non-footballer more than you are a footballer, you know what I mean, and I found that out to myself. So have you thought about what the future lies for Robbie Wilmot?
Yeah, I know I don't want to coach. It's just not in me. I don't want to coach.
I was the same.
I think I'm looking more down the agency sort of route. I want to become an agent. Okay. I think I've had my agent now, who I've been with for a few years now, is brilliant. I can't fault him. There's someone that I can because they played the game, I can ask them their opinion on contracts and stuff like that. But start of my career, I had some really, really poor representation. And I just want to be able to do it in the right way. The agency, I want to be able to be as honest as I can with the players. I think that's where in my early career, I think I needed it more than most. A bit of honesty. Like to be fair, a funny story. I got the bid got accepted from Luton, and the manager said, right, you've got to go and agree personal terms with Luton tomorrow. So I rang my agent, and my agent didn't even know that I'd been sold. So it's like, they should be ringing me and telling me that the deals on the table and stuff like that, and that's why I think I was more in shock at the actual contract offer. But yeah, I think I want to be down more the agency route and do it properly.
Robbie, do you think that's a problem in terms of young players, mate, and agents? Just that there's some agents out there who are maybe not having the young players' their best interest at heart, or they might be too inexperienced, or whatever it may be. But young players aren't getting the best advice that they could be getting. Yeah,
because you get we play in the Checker Trade tournament, so we play the under 23s or whatever, 21s, whatever they are. So we play we've had Chelsea a couple of years, on the last couple of years, and you've got 16, 17-year-olds on 10 grand a week. And then he doesn't leave Chelsea until he's sort of 25. And I'd question the agent there. I'm thinking he's getting a new deal after at Chelsea, but he's not playing in the first team. So you're pretty much making him sign contracts. You're getting your commission off the back of it. He should be going out and playing 200, 300, 400 games in his career, but he's not. You see these players, they leave Chelsea and they just die out. Then they just finish in the game, and then you hear, he had so much ability. Yeah, he had so much ability, but he had poor representation.
But this annoys me as well, Losai. And I'll say it for an experienced player as well. You know what I mean? That, and I'll use me as an example, because I'm not embarrassed to say that I didn't need an agent when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 at the end. I needed an agent towards the end of my career when the clubs were running out, when I really needed somebody to help me and get hold of me and tell me that everything was going to be all right, and to give me that advice and get me kicked up the backside when I needed it. But I didn't have that. You know what I mean? At my age, after I scored in the winning goal at Millennium Stadium, he'd ring me up after I scored against Man United to tell me how good I am, ring me up and take me for dinner after I scored for England. I didn't need that. You know what I mean? It was nice, but I did, at the time, it's only when I get older and I look back, I didn't need it. You know what I mean? Because why do you need it? I already know I'm playing well because my dad told me, or my mum told me, or my friends tell me, or the papers tell me, or the radio tells me. It's
your manager.
It's so exactly. And my players and my teammates. It's so important now that, like Robbie said, you've got ex-players who know the game, who are giving this advice to players to you. You know what I mean? You need to go and play. You need to find a level to play at. There's a level for everybody, by the way. You know what I mean? If that's players who are playing in the Premier League, if that's players who they're not playing this under-23 league, and we've gone on about it, by the way, on this show. The under-23 league is an absolute disgrace and should get any league reserve team football. Playing against men needs to be happening week in, week out on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night. Not bothered. Put it back in. Let experienced players play against 16-year-old kids, and let's move on from there. But I think it's so important that everyone finds a level. Robbie was on about. We spoke about Derby's youngsters playing against Charlie. I watched Charlie's first team annihilate Derby's under 21s, and it was embarrassing. I felt sorry for every single one of them, because when those players aren't a professional football anymore, they're going to drop the Conference North at the time. You know what I mean? And I feel sorry for them, because what are they going to do then? They don't know any different. You know what I mean? And they're going to the distance between there and where they're going to fall is drastic. And you know what I mean? We're on about players who with mental health. We're on about players who commit suicide. We're on about players who can't handle life, because no one's ever getting them ready for it. Robbie mentioned representation has a massive impact on that, and agents, representation, solicitors, or whatever you want to call them, they play a huge part in that. Need to be educated in it itself, because football's a different to normal life.
100%, mate. It's it comes down to if the agents if they genuinely care about the individual, not just the player, the footballer, and him on the pitch, but him as a person. And I think there's probably a lot of agents who don't really care about that. They care about, getting the biggest deal possible and as many young superstars as they can just to get their cut. And like we had David Cottrell on, mate, when he got his big move. I think it was to Birmingham off the top of my head. Yeah, and he was kind of in a new city. He was young guy with a family, because he was married with kids, and he was in a new city, didn't know anyone, had nowhere to live, and basically was just kind of, to paraphrase, was dropped off in the city centre and left to it.
Yeah, just dumped.
Do you know what I mean?
Dumped, yeah.
And for me, like an agent and a football club as well should have been looking after him, making sure that he knew how to get a mortgage and a house, because if he's 19, he'd probably been living at home, hasn't had to pay bills and pay mortgages and sort all that sort of stuff out. So surely that's, to me anyway, that's the agent's job, like for me. But I don't know what you guys think about that. But I'd like to think if I was an agent, I'd look after my players. But it is what it is. Right, last question, Robbie, to wrap us up, and it's a good one. Reece asked a bit earlier on. He's asked it again as well, because he's good like that. I didn't have to go searching to find it again. But he says, it's a question for both of you. It says, how does pre-season training differ from back in the olden days when Andy used to play to the modern era where Robbie plays? And he worded it like that completely. I don't know what you mean.
Thanks, Reece. Robbie, I'll let you begin and tell everybody an insight on what pre-season's like. You know what I mean? What date do you start? How long does it last? Double set.
Yeah, so Newport usually start the last Thursday in June. So we have testing days. Thursday, Friday is testing days. Then we have the weekend off, and then we go into pre-season. But it's changed so much. Like back when I first sort of started my first professional season, it was just
Robbie was just about to say that. Robbie was just about to say back in the day there when it was black.
Yeah, back in the day, it was so like it was literally just like whistle. It was just one whistle, run to one cone and back, and you're doing that God knows how many times. But now it's just sports scientists. It literally
they didn't even have whistles when Andy was training in pre-season.
Dog whistles.
It just goes down to sports scientists, and obviously now we all wear like GPS vests and things like that, so they can see and heart rate monitors and stuff like that. So literally every morning there's graphs and stuff like that they've got to do, and they can obviously see if you're putting it in or not. But now it's sort of all the people coming out of colleges and universities who are taking the degrees in sports science and stuff like that. That's where it's heading down now. It's not really managers. Managers just pretty much go off the sports scientists now. You get all these runs from America and all these different bits of equipment and stuff like that. You still have fat testing and stuff like that, but there's a million ways to do fat testing now. So yeah, it's just changed so much. I think it's more down the science route now.
What was your pre-season like, Andy?
I remember my first pre-season, which was we always trained on the 1st of July. Do you know what? It was that dreaded day, 1st of July pre-season training. It was like whichever day it turned on. It doesn't matter if it was a Monday, a Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. It doesn't matter. 1st of July you're in training, and we got dropped off we got dropped off at the entrance, and the minibus drove to the exit, which was about 10 miles away, and picked us up. And however long it took us to get there, we had to get there. You know what I mean? So if you walk there, it took you a full day. If you run there as quick as you can, it was an absolute nightmare. I'll be honest. It was horrible. It was the amount of footballers, friends, teammates who I saw being sick that day was just outrageous. And it never got any better, because tomorrow we did it again, and then tomorrow we did it again, and then tomorrow we did it again. I was like, this is horrific. If you got a blister, you know what I mean, it would just be like, just wrap it up and do it. You're going again, and you were aiming for this first game. You know what I mean? You just wanted to play the games and the games and the games, because at Middlesbrough they were quite game savvy at Middlesbrough, because and stuff. We always arrange 2 games on the same day, so we'd play Hartlepool and Darlington on the same day, for example. So half the team would go to Darlington and play, half the team would go to Hartlepool and play. So we'd get a full 90 minutes in for the first team, which is fantastic. But I went to Bolton Wanderers under Big Sam. Sam opened my eyes with what was available, you know what I mean, in sports science department, and we did a 1,000-metre run every Monday, and Sam used to tell us that we were going too slow individually because he had his iPad, and he'd be telling us that because we had the monitors on, he'd be telling us what was going on. When I went to Halifax Town under Chris Wilder, every day in pre-season it'd be like, you're going too quick, you're going too quick, you're going too quick. I'm thinking, how can I be going too quick? There was method in the madness, you know. Everything was just data driven, data, and you know what I mean. Like Robbie said, we linked with Huddersfield Uni, and we did this. I don't know if you've done it, Robbie. We did this run on the treadmill, and it was the max test on the treadmill, which is a worrying thing, by the way. You're on a treadmill, Si, and there's crash mats left, right, and behind you. You know what I mean. So when you fly off, because that's the only way to come off. By the way, you come off at the back. It's you know what I mean. It's you run until you can't run anymore when you're off. And I remember I've seen a few lads fly off and do this, and you run off. And I remember the bloke who was doing the tests. He was taking blood out of my ear every minute or two, and then he used to tell me to stop. You've done enough. You know what I mean. You can't go any longer. You know what I mean. You can go do another 30 seconds. And he was right, because they just know from what's happening in your body that you can go how far you can go, and it's just key. Data is key now, and data is king. In football now.
Rob just asked a question there when Reece was talking, but it made me think of something. How, like obviously the Premier League players, they all get drug tested and stuff, don't they? How low down does that go? Do they test the Championship and the League 1 and 2 and down into the Conference?
It goes down to League 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got
tested. At Cardiff City side when I first signed, because obviously the quite famous story with Leon Jean.
Yeah.
That Leon got a new contract. Robbie, I don't know if you know Leon, or you heard of Leon Jean, but Leon was a very talented footballer, by the way. Probably one of the best football technically ability, very good winger. He had everything going for him. And Leon went out on the Saturday night and took something he shouldn't. Got just drug tested on the Monday. Ran to the toilet and swapped his sample for some toilet water. Didn't get away with it. Ended up failing his drugs test and ruined a football career. And I think he's had a bad time ever since. And you know what I mean. I felt so sorry for him on one hand, but then on the other hand, you can't cheat this. You got to be whiter than white, and it's not great. You know what I mean?
We just have random. We just have random tests throughout the season. They come to training, and games. So it can take as long as it takes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What would happen if you didn't take one? Because you remember Rio Ferdinand didn't take his.
You get a strike. You get a strike on your name. I think you get 3 strikes and you're out. But yeah, it's
interesting.
You just do it, you know. No.
Yeah.
I think, unless you've been taking obviously different protein or anything like that, or unless you have been taking something on a Saturday night, then you haven't really got any reason to worry anymore.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Like I wasn't sure how low down in the league pyramid it went in terms of the testing and stuff, but yes, it's an interesting one. Right, Robbie. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, mate. Really enjoyed having a chat about all these different subjects. But you picked a good week to come on, I think, as well, because there was so much to talk about. But really appreciate your time, mate.
No problem. No, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Robbie. Amazing guests, some great stories. Everyone who's put questions in the group chat, really appreciate everything that you put in. Had some amazing questions again, by the way, on an evening with. There's so much to talk about, you know what I mean? I think this subject might rumble on for a few more weeks, but we won't keep going on about it.
Well, we'll talk about the Championship and the impact it might have on the EFL on the Championship show Friday 7 o'clock. because we didn't talk about that part of it. But other than that, we'll probably leave it unless there's any further developments. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's watched, tuned in. Thank you to also the people who watch and download after the live show's finished. Always appreciate you guys. New Danny Batten show, fight show on Wednesday with another top quality guest. We've also got the Championship show Friday and a new episode of My Story on Sunday. If you missed the episode which we dropped yesterday, it was with Welsh filmmaker, actor, TalkSport presenter Johnny Owen. It was a good one, a fun one. I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. But in the meantime, big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever for all their support around the show, and of course Bespoke Financial for sponsoring us. And check out that offer which Darren is doing from Bespoke Financial, and see if they've got anything which might help you guys. In the meantime, we will see you Friday for another episode. Cheers.